I was kind of wanting to segue over to some winter fishing. I saw Jay up here. He says, can you discuss how you tackle a new lake when you're pre-fishing for a tournament?
Well, you know, the reservoirs and the bodies of water that we go to are so big that you cannot fish it all. So I try to limit myself to a specific section of the lake. And depending upon the seasonal pattern, will get me in that type of an area. Right now, if I were going to a new lake that I had never been in, I would break that lake down into 3 sections: an upper, a middle, and a lower. And right now, being that it's winter, you're going to find the cleanest water, the deepest water at the lower end of the reservoir. So I'm going to spend most of my time there. In a pre-spawn period, that lower and middle was where I would go. And then a spawn to a post-spawn, I would continue up the lake, moving up further. So I break those down in an A, B, C, A being the deepest down here at the lower end, B in the middle, C. And I do the very same thing in the major creeks: an A, a B, and a C in the upper. And when you start looking at that and you start paralleling where you're fishing and the seasonal patterns, areas start jumping out at you really, really quick when you've done this for a couple of years. And that's the one thing when people ask me how to become a better fisherman: read, watch, and learn everything you possibly can about seasonal patterns. If you're not around them, it doesn't matter what kind of Strike King bait you got. It doesn't matter what kind of crankbait you got, what color special colored crankbait you got. It doesn't matter. You're not around them. So learning what a seasonal pattern does is why on the Bassmaster Elite Series, we have very, very few local winners. You know, when Brandon Cobb won over at Hartwell, that's one of the last ones that I can remember that a local guy won on his home lake, because you have all this history going around in your head, and you remember where you caught 2 5-pounders over there on that point, and those 3 docks over there you caught 20 pounds off of one time. All that just discombobulates you, and you don't fish a seasonal pattern. When we had our last Elite Series here in 2018, I fished an area of Kentucky Lake I had never seen. I went to Big Sandy. I don't have much experience there, and it took me away from all the thought process of the home lake, of all these great places I knew to go catch them with limited fish populations. I hadn't caught squat for a couple of years. I went to an area, there were buck bushes. It fit the seasonal pattern. I found 3 stretches of buck bushes and lived in there for a top 12 finish, fishing an area I had never seen in my entire life. Just fishing a seasonal pattern. Seasonal pattern is where it's at. And then your baits and your techniques, those will come in and help. But if you're not around them, you're not going to catch them. If you get around them, you're going to catch them.
Yep. So right now in the winter, what are some of the places to look for? If somebody was just to go out on a reservoir right now, what should they be looking for?
Right now, verticality is the most important thing. What happens in a fish's life this time of year is they don't go 500 yards to the back of the creek to go get something to eat. They move up and down in a water column. So you're looking for banks that are very vertical. Bluffs, channel swings, where the channel swings in and where it leaves the bank. That is a key little flat. That fish has deep water here close to him. He'll rise up there and feed, grab him a bite to eat, then he'll get off there and get back in deep water. The other thing I would do this time of the year is it's brutal. I'd be there early and I'd be there late, because what happens in a fish's life this time of year, daylight is only this long. It's only 8.5 hours. So I'm there when the photo period starts and I'm there when the photo period ends. They're moving so slow that at night they try to feed at night, but they're not very efficient feeders at night. So the first thing in the morning when daylight is breaking, there is a shallow bite. Those fish move up in the water column and get on the bank. They grab a bite to eat. They back out, spend the rest of the day, and they're like, oh, shoot, it's happy hour. It's 3:30. I better get up there and get something to eat, because at 5 o'clock, it's going to be dark again. Those are the 2 key times to fish during the wintertime. You better dress well. And the other thing I would tell you to do if you're out there fishing this time of the year, tell someone where you're going to be on the lake and don't leave that area. You know, if you're going to tell them you're going to be in a 3 to 5 mile section, that's where you're going to be. Take a buddy and take extra clothes with you, because you never know when you're going to get clumsy and you go right out of the boat, and it's cold this time of the year. So take extra precautions when fishing in the winter.
I got another question from Ron on here. He says, how does the swim bladder affect where the fish live in the winter in relation to the shad?
Well, when the issues with the swim bladders when we catch them, when they're out in 25 to 30 to 40 feet of water and we catch them and we bring them to the top, the pressure change is what causes the issues with the fish. When they're out there in that 30 to 40 to 25 to 40 feet of water and shad swim through there, they'll go up there and get them a bite real quick and come back down. They have no issue with that. But it's when we catch them and hold them out of the water where you have to actually fizz them and help them. You've got to be very scientific about that.
We were starting to talk about winter patterns and places to find fish. And this is a question that a lot of people ask, and I want your take on this. How long will you stay in an area that's not producing? Basically, when do you know when should I stay or should I go is what I'm getting at.
Well, that's a $64,000 question. What I try to do in the winter is fish high percentage areas, whether it's a channel swinging in on a bank and where that channel swings in and hits the bank, and when it leaves the bank, those are two really high percentage areas. The end of a riprap, verticality, a point that comes out there and falls off that has a feeding flat on it. And I will make a milk run of 12 or 14 of those things. And if I see fish on my scope, I'll stick around a little longer. If I don't see them on live scope, I won't. But I try to find those places where those fish can move up. Many times your shallower fish are singles. It's like a big old buck. The bucks don't run together this time of the year, but they'll come through one at a time. That's very, very, very common for shallow winter bass in 5 feet of water or less. I think a lot of fish move up and feed, and then they move off and suspend or get deeper. So those high percentage areas are what I'm trying to deal with. And if I catch one or two fish, or I see a group of fish, I may come back 3 or 4 times before those fish slide up and become catchable to the techniques that I want to use. So a lot of times when it's the right thing, channel swing or a point or a bluff bank, or there's current running and there's a point sticks out and then get behind it, you don't see any, come back a little later and the whole gang may have moved in. It's about making that milk run in the winter more so than trying to find scattered fish.
Okay, that makes total sense. So you just kind of got to feel it out, see what it feels like, and make your decision. I got something I brought. I want to show you. See if you remember this. I don't know. Have you ever seen one of these right here?
Oh, is that the old Rogue? Yeah. Yeah. If you scratch that name off there, they'll bite the hell out of
it. Yeah. I dug this out of my box. I said, I know I got one of those in there somewhere, and I dug it out. And I thought you would enjoy that.